The morning sun rose gently over the small town of Ibadan, casting its first rays across the tin rooftops and narrow, winding streets. Among the early risers was Amara, a 22-year-old maid who had worked for the Adebayo family for almost 5 years. She was the kind of girl everyone overlooked, soft, spoken, obedient, with hands that knew hard work and a heart full of quiet dreams. Amara's life hadn't been easy. Her mother had died when she was a child, and her father, a petty farmer, had passed away during the floods that swept their village 3 years ago. Since then, she had been on her own, carrying the weight of survival in a world that had no time to care for the poor. The Adebayo family had taken her in when she came begging for work, barefoot and desperate. At first, things were bearable. Madame treated her decently, and the children even called her Auntie Amma. But things changed when Mr. Adebayo lost his job and the tension in the house grew thick like smoke. Suddenly, everything Amara did was wrong. Madame's temper turned sharp, her voice always raised, her words cruel. One rainy Wednesday, Amara was accused of stealing Madame's gold necklace. She hadn't taken it, in fact, she hadn't even seen it, but no one cared. The shouting was loud, neighbors gathered, and before Amara could even defend herself, she was thrown out into the street with nothing but a small nylon bag of her clothes. The rain poured on her like the heavens themselves were weeping for her. She stood at the gate, soaked and heartbroken, not knowing where to go, whom to turn to, or how to begin again. For days she wandered the streets, sleeping under shop verandas and surviving on puff and sachet water. People passed her by, some pitied her, most ignored her, but she kept moving. Amara had always believed that God had not forgotten her, even when it felt like the world had. One evening, hungry and weak, she sat outside a fancy restaurant in Bodija. The warm smell of jollof rice and suya drifted out, mocking her empty stomach. She wasn't begging, she never did, but the pain in her eyes was louder than any spoken plea. Inside the restaurant, a man watched her from the window. He was dressed simply, in jeans and a crisp shirt, but his calm presence had a quiet authority. His name was Chindu O, by a tech entrepreneur from Lagos in Ibadan for a conference. He was known in the business world as a silent billionaire, someone who rose from nothing and now used his wealth to support young African talents. Something about Amara's posture caught his attention. Maybe it was the way she held her dignity even in distress. Maybe it was the stubborn fire in her eyes despite her struggle. Whatever it was, Chindu stood up, paid his bill, and walked outside. "Good evening," he said gently. Amara looked up, startled. She had learned to distrust men who approached her randomly. Too often their intentions were disrespectful. But something about him felt safe. "I saw you sitting here. Are you all right?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, sir, I'm fine." He looked at her for a moment. "Would you like something to eat?" Again she hesitated. Her pride told her to say no, but her stomach screamed louder. She nodded slowly. He didn't take her inside the restaurant. Instead, he ordered takeaway rice, chicken, water, and a soft drink. As she ate outside, he sat beside her, asking questions softly. Her story came out in fragments: the years of service, the false accusation, the nights on the street. Chindu listened without interrupting. He didn't pity her, he respected her. "Do you want to work?" he asked after a while. Amara blinked. "Yes, sir, anything. Not as a maid," he added. "I run a tech foundation. We help train young people, especially women, in digital skills, customer service, remote jobs. You'll start with training. If you're serious, I'll help you get a place to stay, but you'll work hard." She couldn't believe it. She almost thought it was a scam. But the sincerity in his voice and the way he treated her like a human being, not a stray, gave her hope. And so began a new chapter in Amara's life. She joined Chindu's foundation the following Monday. At first, she struggled. Everything was new. She barely knew how to use a computer, had never typed more than her name. But every evening, she stayed back to practice. She asked questions, she learned, she failed often, but she never gave up. 3 months later, she had completed a course in digital marketing. Another 2 months and she was managing the foundation's social media. People started noticing her, not for her looks or her past, but for her dedication and intelligence. Chindu continued to mentor her, not in a romantic way, but like a brother or father guiding a gifted child. He believed in her, and slowly, she began to believe in herself. A year passed. Amara now had a small apartment of her own. She dressed well, modest but elegant. Her smile returned, and her laughter came freely. She had become a full-time employee of the foundation, and was earning enough to support herself, and even send small money to her younger cousin back in the village. One day, Chindu called her into his office. "There's a new startup we're launching," he said, "and we need someone to lead the customer success team. I've seen your growth. I think you're ready." Amara's hands shook. "Me, sir. Yes, you've earned it." It was her dream job. It came with better pay, international exposure, and the chance to travel. That night she cried, not from sorrow, but from joy. 2 years after she had been thrown out like garbage, Amara walked confidently into a business conference in Kigali, Rwanda, representing her company. She wore a tailored suit, carried a laptop, and spoke with the wisdom of someone who had lived through fire and come out gold. But fate wasn't finished with her. At the same conference was Madame Adebayo, older now, still proud and still harsh. She didn't recognize Amara at first, but when she did, her eyes widened. "You, Amara?" Amara smiled politely. "Yes, Ma, what are you doing here? I work with the Obai Foundation. I'm here to represent our startup division." Madame's mouth hung open. She looked her up and down, not as a maid, but as a woman of stature. For the first time, she was speechless. "I never took that necklace," Amara added softly, "but thank you for what happened. It led me here." She didn't say it with bitterness. She meant it. Sometimes rejection is redirection. Today, Amara is a rising name in the African tech space. She mentors other young women, especially those from rural backgrounds. She tells her story with pride, not shame. Not because she wants praise, but because she wants others to know. No matter how dark the night, morning will come. She never forgot the pain, but she never let it define her, and the man who gave her a chance, Chindu O, still calls her my miracle girl, because sometimes all it takes is one encounter, one moment of kindness, one door opened, and everything changes. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.